So, I want to talk about stereotypes in emergency rooms because this is something that has to be talked about. So, recently, an NFL player was reported dead, and we're now learning that he had a medical event that caused his death. I don't want to traumatize his family any further by mentioning his name, but it brought me to think about the stereotypes that exist in emergency rooms and the fact that we still have this continuous problem of how racism affects every strata of life in America. There's so much racism here that people actually voted for a white man who was 80 years old, who is 79 years old, and who is seems to suffer from some cognitive difficulties, right? And yet they voted for him, not because he was the best candidate or the only candidate, but simply because he was white. He's white. That's why they voted for him. That vote that they cast to make this man president of the country in less than 8 months has torn up the economy, has discontinued agencies like the USAID, taken money out of the federal government to give to a foreign power without any level of accountability, firing and attacking Caribbean neighbors, firing and invading Venezuela, a sovereign nation that has nothing to do with America, nor terrorists or anything, just arbitrarily just doing things by the seat of his pants if he can find it, if he can find his own pants and his own seat of his own pants, locking up citizens, detaining citizens under the pretext of locking up undocumented immigrants and criminals. And criminals are in jails, but they're not emptying out the jails where the criminals are. Because those people who are in jails who are criminals, the people who run the prisons are his friends. So he's not going to take away their bottom line. He's not doing that. But he's very much going after American citizens who are going about their business, walking into Walgreens. Next thing you know, you're detained by ICE, locking up undocumented people who are trying to be legal and who were actually working. People were working on construction projects. People were working on construction sites, fixing roofs. Yeah. People were working in the farms, in the fields, so that we could all eat. People were working in meat packing plants. People were working in restaurants. People were scrubbing toilets in hotels. That's where they were. They removed working people from the equation. That's what racism has done. Accept it and own it, white America, because you're guilty. That's what your apathetic racism has done. You have an inner guilt of knowing that you enslaved Africans, you drove Native Americans off their land, then you enslaved Africans for more than 250 years, then you brought in Jim Crow, then you still do not give people a chance to be themselves. So you're guilty, and your guilt, your white guilt that is inside of you, caused you to go vote for a man whom you knew would think this, but you were better off. You thought you would rather give him the vote than give it to the black woman who reminds you of your grandmother's maid who was working as a maid. That's what you are. Own it. Own it. Accept it. Own it that your misplaced judgment and your misplaced racism has caused us to be in this situation. And take a sip of water like I am doing, and now say, how do I fix it? So I'm presenting you with another problem that racism has caused. It's stereotypes in emergency rooms. Let's go right into it. Let's talk about it, shall we? Let's talk about how my race and my gender, when presented in a doctor's office, causes me to not be treated. And let's talk about even gender identity. I cannot imagine for people who are homosexual or people who identify as lesbians, gays, bisexuals, transgender. I cannot imagine what you go through when you have to go to the doctor. I'm not going to pretend to know how you are treated. If they treat me badly and I'm straight, how do they treat you? Can we talk about it, America? How racism has permeated every facet of our society, every facet of our country? Let me tell you what happened to me. So this is what happened to me. I am a woman in menopause. Yeah. So I've been going to the same doctor for 18 years. And I had noticed that she was a little bit touched. My children told me she was racist, but I didn't want to. I kept telling myself that you only go there once a year, so you can deal with it. Then, I kept telling myself that you're better off staying with one doctor than to go find another. But it was my children. We were all going to her. I was taking my children to her as a general practitioner. And when my children turned 18, they said, we want to have nothing to do with her because she's racist. As a matter of fact, my youngest daughter, when she turned 12 or 13, said, I don't want to go see her at all because she's racist. I don't want her to touch me. At the same time that my youngest turned, I entered into what they would call perimenopause. I was in my 40s, right? So I started to experience some symptoms. Nobody told me it was menopause induced. The doctor did not tell me. She started disparaging against my weight. She started disparaging against what I eat. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to tell you what my diet has been like for most of my life. I was somebody who used to count the French fries I ate. I wouldn't even eat a hamburger from McDonald's. I kid you not. I was so famous and well known amongst my set for eating healthy. It was unbelievable. So when perimenopause and menopause set in, I was surprised that my body changed, despite the fact that I ate well all my life. So I don't eat like fried foods. I will profess to you that I like the texture of fried chicken. I had to stop eating chicken this year, right? But I don't eat fried foods. It was not part of my regular diet. I would take my children through the drive-through and just order a French fries for myself. That's all I would allow myself to do. And I would eat just a bit. I didn't drink pop. So all the things that they say cause you to be overweight, right? My white doctor had the nerve to look at me. I weighed 190 pounds at the time. My BMI is heavy because, as you can see, I am naturally endowed. It just comes with the genes, okay? So my BMI is always high. Even when I weighed 130 pounds, my BMI was high. So over time, due to perimenopause, I gained weight. My doctor described it as if I had sat down. She asked me if are you eating fried chicken, or maybe you're not watching what you eat? Are you eating a lot of macaroni and cheese? I eat macaroni and cheese twice a year or three times a year on holidays. I kid you not. All my life, I've eaten fish, rice with veggies, and beef and chicken. Not even fried chicken. I'm so famous. I was so famous for going to the store and just buying a rotisserie chicken and taking it home and making dinner out of it. I was that person. I was one of those persons who, what you would call an ingredient household. So I cook everything from scratch. My white doctor with her crusted, dried up lips looked at me and disparaged against me because of race. The other thing that they disparage against you with in emergency rooms is socioeconomics. So based on my zip code, she further disparaged against me. But then I said, she must be racist because when I lived in other zip codes, she was still racist. So they use a smattering of stuff. It's all, the baseline is racism everywhere. It's the same thing that happened to this NFL player. He had a medical event and the police thought he was taking drugs and he died without receiving medical attention. If it were me, I think his family should sue their pants off. Do I feel like suing my doctor? Her practice is practically non-existent because I never named her by name. But if you live in Southeast Michigan, she's on West 8 Mile Road in Livonia. And her last name starts with an A. You might want to avoid her. Racist. Racism in healthcare prevents people of color from accessing care. Here's how it works. They will feel like something is wrong, but people will not go to the doctor because they don't like how they're treated at the doctor. I asked my daughter, my youngest daughter, why don't you go to the doctor more frequently? And she says, Mom, my generation does not like how they treat us when we show up for healthcare. That's a fact. So, all you people out there, some of you are not even white, some of you are Indians or whatever other ethnicities you adopt the colonial mentality and still mistreat people as if you have a right. Can I just remind you of something? The country you are now in was built on the backs of Black people. 200 and work 250 years without getting paid for it. So you can come here and have a doctoral degree behind your name or have a medical degree behind your name and feel like you can mistreat people. I guess that's why are they rounding up anybody? Like, are they taking anybody? Like, you're crazy. I am incensed and outraged because this is crazy. How dare you? This is the racism that you built. And white Americans, you caused this. You, as a result of your policies of racism, have caused harm to many of us because we hesitate to go to the doctor. Because going to the doctor, we're going to be mistreated. We're going to be misidentified. As a matter of fact, when I was complaining to my doctor about how I felt, which was legitimately caused by a depletion of the estrogen hormones, she dismissed it. She said, "It's you. It's because you're not paying attention to what you eat. Maybe you're eating too much." The honest truth is, my children tell me that I eat like a bird. They're the ones who have to say, "Mom, if you're feeling fatigued, you're probably not eating enough." Turns out it was menopause that was causing me to feel fatigued, that the depletion of hormones is not regulating my nervous system, nor regulating my central nervous system or any of my systems because of that. So that was causing me to feel. I had to go read this up in a book I'm studying right now for my master's degree in psychology class. I am in a class called the biological basis of behavior. And I had to read this in a book called The Neuroscience of Behavior. Shout out to the authors for explaining what my doctor of over 20 years chose not to explain because of racism. The last time I went to see her was in 2023. And the medical assistant in her practice told me that you and I weigh the same, but she's going to talk to you about your weight. So she said, "I'm just telling you that she's going to talk to you about your weight." And she said, "We live not far from each other," because she says, "I see your address. I live in the other town over. We basically live like about 2 miles from one another, but she's going to talk to you." She was, in effect, there was a white woman. Yes, she was, in effect, telling me that my doctor was going to be racist towards me based on my zip code and based on what? And based on my ethnicity. She and I weighed the same. We just had different body types. She was a little taller. I was shorter. And she said, "Look at us." She said, "You look better than me." She said, she said, "You must be, your bones are heavy because you don't look like you weigh as much as I weigh." And of course, my BMI is out of, because BMI, whatever BMI means, right? Body mass index was measured on, guess what? It was measured on 30-year-old European white males. You're going to take a measurement on men to put it on women? I'm a full-blooded woman. These are natural. So you think my BMI is high because I wear a double D size? So all women who wear D's, double D's, and D's, you call them overweight? This is what has caused the healthcare craze in this country, where people are literally dropping because people are killing themselves trying to stay slim. People are literally on drugs, propped up by drugs in their youth, and then they stop taking it as they get older and just drop dead. Because this is crazy. My doctor looked like a dried up raisin. She looked like a raisin in the sun, just dried up. And I remember looking at her like, dang, over time, she's really, and turns out I was actually like a year or two older than her. In actuality, we were not far apart in age. But she was so racist. And I'm looking into your face because there are many of you who are practicing healthcare providers who are racist. In fact, you actually think that because you're a doctor, you are superior to people. You actually think that because you're a doctor, you are better than people. But God has a plan for you all. You know that, right? Because you're about to have an encounter with your humanity that is making you confront the worst part of you. You can't get away with this. There's no getting away from this. In a lot of ways, I tend to understand why we're at this point in history, why these things are happening to us. We need to confront the racism of our past. We need to confront how cruel and wicked we were and deal with it. Because this is still true in 2025 as it was in 1925, as it was in 1825. It's still true today. So the reason why so many people of color, especially Black people, don't go to the doctor is because of the biases that exist in healthcare. So imagine going into the emergency room and you are poor and you are Black. How you expect to be treated? If they can look at a regular Black person and mistreat us, how do you think they're going to treat somebody who presents in an emergency room who is poor and Black? How do you think they're going to talk to them? Have you ever heard how medical professionals talk to people? They're condescending and rude. You're all outright crazy. And guess what? Working in medicine does not make you better. It doesn't even, some of you eat junk on your breaks. So you're not even practicing health anyway. You're just as bad as the people who are actually racist. It's a shame, isn't it? It's a total shame. It's such a shame that we need to do that something has to be done about it. And here are the reasons why. I just outlined them to you. Because and you can say that healthcare providers in emergency rooms are in a rush and they're they're in a fast-paced environment, so it's stressful. That has nothing to do with it. People take their implicit biases with them wherever they go. People of color, Black, Hispanic, and Native Americans, if we complain about pain, they give us the lowest dosage of pain or they ignore us. Like me, when I went to the doctor and told them that I was having these issues, she had my whole chart. What did I say? I was going to her for more than 18 years. By the time I wrapped up with her, it was over 20 years. It was almost 20 years that I had been going to her. So she had my whole chart. So she could see that I had never presented with these maladies before. So it must be that looking at my chronological age, it must be menopause. Why did she not tell me that it was menopause that caused these symptoms? I had to go read it in a textbook, in a Master's of Science program for myself. Why did my doctor not tell me that this was as a result of menopause so that I could know what to do? Instead, they were ready to prescribe me high blood pressure when in fact I had white coat syndrome from stressing about going to the doctor. This is why many people of color don't go to the doctor, because we have white coat syndrome. White coat syndrome is seeing somebody in a white coat and your heart palpitates, so it sends your blood pressure spiraling, blood sugar goes off the chart and everything else. And you're like, oh my God, you're sitting there feeling like you're passing out. You're afraid of the authority of the person in a white coat who is going to tell you something else. Many white people don't have that because you don't need to fear the person in a white coat because it's another white person. But for some of us, it's a reality. I had to be diagnosed by my brother, who is a nurse, to tell me that that was the problem. So then I understood why this was happening to me. And I was like, wow, so my doctor couldn't tell me? So when I brought it to her attention, she stopped talking. You know what she said? Her first response was, where did you get that? I said, my brother is a nurse, so he told me. And I said, you couldn't tell me? I had to stop going to her, report her to my insurance provider, that I would never, don't ever send me back and don't send anybody back to her who looks like me. That's how bad it was. The disrespect that we are treated with as a result of the color of my skin. I didn't make myself. God made me this way. Just like you say God made you, is the same God who made me, baby. There's no difference between how God made you than me. Under my skin is the same blood. See my skin? My skin. This is the skin I live in. Is the same blood that runs through me, runs through you. I am made up of the same set of organs. I have breasts. I have a heart. I have kidneys. I have liver. I have a brain. I have a vagus nerve. I have eyes, nose, mouth. We're made the same because we're human. Your objection to my humanity is bullshit. I don't give a damn. You don't move me nor faze me. I don't care. You're stupid anyway, because God made all of us as humans. So I've never really understood the concept of racism. I've always thought it was ridiculous and stupid. But suffice it to say that as an ideology, it has morphed into white supremacy and has morphed into an economic ideology. So it has a certain set of facts. Because it is a fact of life doesn't make it true. You claiming that because you're white, you're better than me is not true. No, it's not. Look at me. I'm going to say it one more time. You, a white person, claiming that because you're white makes you an inherently better person than me is factually not true. You could be a rapist, a pedophile. You could be a thief. You could be a murderer. You could be a lowlife. You're not better than me. You're not better than someone who doesn't look like you. You know what makes us better? Our morals and our values. That's where the distinction comes in. Aha. So you learned something new today. Mm. So people going to emergency rooms, and if they're Black, Hispanic, or they're Native American, they're mistreated by healthcare providers. We're misdiagnosed and we are not prescribed the right medication. In fact, our complaints are dismissed. I believe it was Serena Williams who had a baby, as rich as she is, married to a white man, went in to have a baby. And she told them that she had blood clots that could have given her a pulmonary embolism. For 2 days, they didn't listen to her until her husband came in the room. And she told him that they were not listening and he had to call their attention to it to stop the blood clots from clotting in her lung that could have killed her off. And she's rich. So sometimes it's not socioeconomics. What it is at the root cause is racism. You see, why this is why the same racism that makes you disparage against me in an emergency room, the same racism that makes you not give me a car loan with favorable rates, the same racism that makes you not employ me, the same racism is why you voted in a man who has 34 convictions and 34 felonies for rape amongst them. Why you thought he was a better candidate than the Black woman who was a prosecutor and worked at every level of government. She worked at the county level, the state level, and the federal government. You would not vote her in to be president because you did not like the color of her skin. Confront it, own it. That's who you are. Racism is what drives it. Then, of course, there's gender identity. So you're going to hate me as a woman. So you also hate the people who identify as the LGBTQ too, don't you? I would love to hear what happens when you go to the doctor. Oh my God. Why are people so hateful? So imagine someone who can't express themselves. You're disparaging against people because, honestly, it's by the luck of the draw some of us are rich. It's by God's mercy some of us are better financially. And you are going to disparage against people? I just like to look at it like you're going to disparage against me for how I was born. This is how they made me. The people who had sex to make me, they couldn't control how they looked either. This is how I look. So you are disparaging against me. It doesn't make me, the how I look on the outside doesn't make me any less human on the inside. I'm still a composite. I'm made up of the same stuff you have. I still have a heart. I still have lungs. I still have kidneys. I still have reproductive organs, right? I have capillaries and neurons that make me up. I have eyes and ears and fingers and toes and extremities, just like you are. It just looks different on the outside. And you have the crusty, dusty nerve to think that you're a better person than I could ever be. Shame on all of you. It is that same shame that caused you to vote in a convicted felon who is now raping the country, destroying the White House. He demolished part of the White House. And all you're saying is, wow, look what he did. It's your racism that you're watching in real time. It's your racism that is picking up hardworking people off the streets. But the same racism does not extend to the billionaires who are immigrants, Elon Musk and Peter Thiel. They're white and they're immigrants. Are you sending ICE after them? Are you going after them or their families or their friends? Are you picking them up off the street? No, you're not. Because again, racism is the ideology. Shame on all of you. It's your turn to fix this. It's your turn to get us out of this. You put us in here. It's your turn to fix it because this racism is bullshit. I call it bullshit. My own healthcare provider would not tell me that I had menopause induced symptoms, but she told the white person. You're all sad. And you should be ashamed of yourselves. And that's what's happening to America right now. Hanging your heads in shame, feeling shamed. You should be because it's your racism perpetuated by generations of racism that is now on display in live color, live and direct, before the whole world to see how you festered and how racist you are, that you would not vote for the black woman who was born here, who went to college. You educated her. Your educational system educated her. Your system allowed her to proliferate, and you would not give her the keys to the government to do a better job, but you gave it to a convicted felon who has sold the country out. And there you are sitting. We're not crying with you. Fix it. It's your turn.